Ponzi schemes, pyramid schemes, investment scams, how to avoid getting ripped off. Bernie Madoff's passed away. It's a great time to talk about it again. Hi, I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermount, and I've got a fee only financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I've got a family financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And that's a great topic for today, right, Bridget? I mean, Bernie's gone now, it's in the news, but those scams and those schemes and those things are still out there for people. And, how do you avoid that, right? It was really scary back then thinking, golly, something that seems legit, and you find out it's all built a house made out of cards. And I know you've done a lot of homework. You did a lot of research back when this came out, years ago on that. What do you have to say to people and sort of maybe refresh our memories on what happened, and then we'll talk about how we can avoid it.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Madoff, first of all, he had a lot of credibility. The guy had been the chairman of NASDAQ, which is a stock exchange, and he had years of experience in the field. So he could have made money legitimately, I believe, but somehow he got involved in this life of crime. And so what he did is tell people that he had these great investments that would earn 10 to 12% a year and never lose money. Okay. So that's our first, that's our first clue. All right. And now 10 to 12% that doesn't sound that high. That's an interesting part of his scheme, is that a lot of scammers go with make money fast. Right. Okay. 10 to 12%, that's not that fast.
Right.
But it is better than you're going to ever get anywhere else. And
There's
so,
and downside, right? Nothing to lose. It never goes down.
Right. And so it's really appealing to people's loss aversion, which is the technical term for it, which means they don't like losing money. So people don't like losing money, and he appealed to that. So that was the first thing he did. The second thing he did was he took custody of people's assets. So that's a jargony term. That just means that he set up a company, and he had everybody sign over all their assets to Bernie Madoff. And what we as financial planners do is use custodians like Schwab or Fidelity, and some of the smaller ones are like SSG or Pershing. And we have a custodian hold the assets. When people sign up with a firm, they don't sign it all up, send all their money to my firm. They send all their money to Schwab. So that was the second thing he did. That way he could manipulate their statements. So if the investments were going down, he could say they weren't. And he could show on these statements that people were making money, even if there was nothing behind it. So the lesson there is have an outside custodian and check your statements.
Yeah, so literally fraudulent, fake numbers on the returns, right?
Exactly.
That's interesting. It's one of the things that I think about when I talk with folks about this, and remembering back that 10 or 12 years ago when this all broke, was exactly what you just said. Is if it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? Super high returns, okay, consistent returns, but it never goes down. I mean, you have to take some risk with these things, right? If it sounds too good to be true, there's a red flag. Being able to explain it, what's going on? How is this thing working, right? Where you don't need to remember this long term. You don't need to know, but after it's been explained, could you explain it to your spouse or to a friend? Like, here's what they're doing with our money. So those sort of things. And then the one big one that I think is that last one you hit on is having, the custodian, that fancy pants word, but where are you getting your statements from, right? Your firm, my firm, you don't get your statements from my place of business. You get it from Schwab, or you get it from Fidelity, or some third party. If I'm the one that's producing the statements and giving the advice, you can cook the books in there. And so you eliminate so much of that by going with one of the, third party, a major firm like that. I think the other thing that I talk about with folks is diversification. I heard, back when this happened, it's, geez, I've lost all my money. And my thinking was, well, why would you put all your money, even if it's a good investment, in one basket, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And to reiterate your other point about the explaining it to somebody else, there was, when I was doing the research, there was an expert who had invested in Madoff, and he felt really bad because he had explained that he was investing in Madoff to one of his friends, and his friend said, "Sounds like a scam. I'm not investing." So that, I thought that was very telling, obviously. And then to your point about diversifying, if you're losing everything because of this one investment, well, that's not diversification. That means you have all your investments in one thing. That's not prudent. Uh, Generally, I'm okay with having one custodian, again, one place that you invest, but different investments among in that place is normal.
That's right. That's right. And I go back to that the risk and return, right? If you're going to get more returns, it's possible, but that means there has to be more volatility with things. There's no
Right.
such thing as a safe, high return investment. Right? Like we'd all love that, right? When you find that, let me know. But it's just that's just not how reality is. Right? It's okay to take higher risk, but then if it sounds too good to be true, right? You use your gut, the smell test. Boy, if it feels wrong, you uh, don't take that action. And what this reminds me of something that Warren Buffett once said is that there's no called strikes in investing. Meaning, you can be up at bat in a baseball game and a regular game, right? If a ball comes across the plate, they're going to call a strike. You have to swing. When you're talking about your investments, even if it's a good deal, right? You can let it go right down the middle of the plate, but when you swing, you have to make sure that you're making contact, right? So it's not like every good idea you've got to act on.
Right.
You
Good point.
sure that you get the good ideas, and you don't need to hit home runs. You hit a bunch of singles, you still score runs and win. That sort of a thinking, thought process is, don't swing for the fences on every pitch.
Yeah, right.
So
Absolutely. And in a baseball game, even if you win, you have had, what is it, 3 times 9 or 27 outs. So you goofed up 27 times, even if you win the game.
that's right.
So anyway,
Anyway, well,
yeah,
I'll tell you what, to wrap up on it, Bridget, one of the things just the big takeaways I see, right, is the things we talked about: diversify, don't invest in something too good to be true. And then for me, that really big one is, where is your money actually held? Like, where are you getting the statements? Does it say Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard or some company? Or is it, if it's not the firm like, Trinity or Sullivan Bell, then you've got somebody else looking at that, and that eliminates, that one thing right there eliminates the vast majority, where you don't have to worry about this if you're not putting everything in one basket. So that'd be my one big takeaway from this.
great. So that, with that, we'll wrap up. We want to mention 2 things at the end of this show. One is that we're both members of ACP, or the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners. It's a group, a non-for-profit group of fee-only financial planners around the country, and we all share a lot of the same common values. And the other thing is to subscribe. Please subscribe to our channel. It helps us get credibility with YouTube and helps us get our word out. So with that, let's wrap it up. Thanks, John.
All right, thanks, Bridget.